If you've always wanted to support the show with your hard-earned cash, now's the time to pause, go to Patreon, and search out FNRad. Join one of our tiers. You'll get ad-free episodes every week, one day early, plus more cool stuff. The FNRad Snowboard Podcast is presented by Skyview Campers, Never Summer's innovative take on the tiny home. Designed and built in beautiful Colorado, check out skyviewcampers.com. Wired Snowboards builds quality snowboards by hand 10 minutes away from my house. Visit wiredsnowboards.com and order one today. Fixed bindings are easy to adjust, long-lasting, high-performance bindings built to have less impact on the environment. Check out fixedbindingco.com. Rip Curl outerwear, strength, durability, and performance. Designed to search further in the snow, head to ripcurl.com and check out the Anti-Series jacket. I can't wait to rock this thing. New Greens, 100% organic, vibrant green juice. Buy yourself some at newgreens.com and use code FNRad at checkout for 20% off. The Boardroom Snowboard Shop, best selection, best prices, Vancouver's premier snowboard shop. The Boardroom ships to anywhere in North America, so go to boardroomshop.com or visit their stores in Vancouver and North Van. Support also comes from Mount Seymour, Grouse Mountain, Cypress Mountain, the Pro Standard GoPro accessories, and our friends at 1910. You can use code FNRAD at checkout for 20% off at 1910.com. The Haven's a center for transformational learning located on beautiful Gabriola Island. Plan a visit at haven.ca and use code FNRAD at checkout to save 10% off their Come Alive program. I just got back from Snowboy's Holy Bowly event at Sunshine Village. I'm hanging on to winter, and Bowly delivered the goods. Fresh snow every day. Crush is still building the most beautiful and creative stuff in the world, and the vibe is all time. Event builders and park designers are key to my enjoyment of snowboarding. Without them, resorts become a collection of dangerous side hits with deep highways and uphill landings. I want to keep our community fresh and safe, and one of the best ways to do that is to attend the events built by passionate snowboarders and make sure our home resorts pay park designers and builders a fair wage. If you attend mountain meetings, be sure to remind them that park staff are key to the whole experience. Thanks to people like Liam at Cypress, Marcus at Grouse, and Chris at Seymour, Vancouver has a healthy scene. My deepest thanks to everyone involved. This week's guest is Don Bostic. He's a skater from Sacramento who started in the 70s and has put on more events than the next 20 event managers combined. Known as the Godfather of the N-Men, Don's life in skateboarding and snowboarding has been absolutely legendary. If you haven't seen the N-Men documentary, make a note and watch it right away. He helped create the competitive snowboard scene in California, eventually developing the X Games. I met him at the Legends of Tahoe event, where he and a handful of others honor the history of snowboarding at Tahoe. It was a great honor to have Don Bostic as a guest of the show.
You know, and I quit college to join a band, which I thought, actually, at the time, my goal was to be a rock star.
Killer.
And I was a drummer, and I wanted, that was my life, and that's what I lived for. And outside of that, surfing and skating was always my passion. And I say that I didn't start skiing till what I call late. I was 21, and I lived in Sacramento. And I had moved to Sacramento from the Bay Area to be in this certain band that was on the verge of being something big.
What were they called?
Slow Loris.
Slow Loris.
It was a 7-piece jazz rock band, and we actually worked with, we had a producer, the drummer Mike Botts, who was a drummer for the group Bread.
Rad.
Baby, I'ma want you, baby. So Mike was from Sacramento, and in our band, we had, it was kind of like a Chicago setup. We had trombone, trumpet, sax, and we had this insane jazz keyboard player. And so they had a connection with Mike, And anyway, we spent a couple summers recording. We thought we were going to get on Elektra Records and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. There were talks.
Yeah.
There were talks.
And so what was kind of cool about my life is that being a musician and traveling all over the place, like people used to say, I drive up my van, I have surfboards, I had skis, I had skateboards. And talk about skateboarding, I was in Colorado Springs in the 70s when the urethane wheel just came out.
Yep.
And I had skated in the 60s when I started skating 10, 11 years old. And so I was always good at doing 360s and handstands and all that. And when the urethane wheel came out, I was in Colorado and this ski shop had a skateboard demo and nobody could do anything. And I show up, I think I had a Bane skateboard. I started spinning 360s. Next thing I know, I'm doing the demo.
I love it. That's awesome.
So
and that urethane wheel company, was that Kryptonics?
Before Crypto, Cadillac.
Cadillac
was the big
Cadillac
thing.
wheels,
Yeah,
right?
Cadillac
wheels. Yeah. And the crypto story puts it into Colorado too. Like that's where Colorado just went nuts.
Was that Dave? Oh, I can't think of his name.
That's a deep pull. That's a very deep pull.
But, even thinking when I think of Kryptonic, I could see the wheels. I could feel. I know what those wheels are like.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I had a board that came with a pair of Sims or a set of Sims Fat Cats, and I'm like, I started skating probably 84, 5, 6 around Bones Brigade, public domain.
Yeah.
So that's my era. But those Sims wheels, there's something really, just about they weren't a printed wheel. It was an embossed Sims around that. And the branding for me really landed. Like, oh, cool. This is cool. This shit is cool.
Yeah, I mean, branding and coolness was always
a part of it. So for you, what's the first snowboard event that you get, called to organize?
Well, as far as snowboard event is, I lived in Sacramento, so I actually used to come to Donner all the time, and there was the group around Tahoe that was forming, and at Boreal, they used to have these night sessions, because Boreal always had night skiing, and so there's always a posse going to Boreal, and a guy there named Scooter Scott was the manager, and Scooter's actually the guy that got together with a group of us, and we started the California State Snowboard Series. Sick. And I'm not sure what year it was, but it was at the same time that in Southern California, Chuck was starting
USASA?
What became USASA.
Yeah. So the California Series is the one that Roach won. He was the state champion at your series. So you got
California
involved with
State
that.
Series, and Steve-O, who was here yesterday, Steve was one of the judges.
Yep.
So we had a lot of crossover from skate people in Sacto.
That's rad.
And
the N-Men?
And the N-Men. And the other thing, to give you a little history, is that at the time I was managing 2 stores called Ghost Skate.
Ghost Skate, yeah.
And Ghost Skate was based, the original store was in Santa Cruz by the Boardwalk. A guy named Dale Smith opened up these shops, and again, I got off the road from music, and earlier I opened up what was called Skateboards, etc., and I did that to try to have a life outside of music.
Yeah.
And that's what you see in the Endman movie, is that I opened that shop. I was 26 or 27, never had a business before, but I thought skateboarding, this is something I can do. And
totally.
I had a 600 square foot little spot and 3 pinball machines. And
sick.
And after school, my place was happening.
Yep, of course.
Had ramps outside.
Demos outside, the whole thing.
I had a quarter pipe to wall.
Damn.
And just a lot of cool stuff happening.
Yeah, that is dope.
But years later, to get back to snowboarding, well, I'm jumping all over. I'm sorry.
I love it. Don't be sorry.
But even when I had that shop, which is 76 to 78,
yeah,
I got a Lonitoff Sims. That's my first snowboard.
They were really around in that late 70s thing.
Yeah, that's when Lonnie came out, and it was a big plastic kind of a boat.
I've held them, man. I've seen them. I've never ridden them.
And so we had a Longitude skateboard deck on it with one bungee cord.
Yep.
So that was my first sport. So I used to come up here. Of course, snowboarding was completely brand new. The resorts didn't allow it. So I'd ski at Boreal and then go across from Boreal and hike up on my own. At the time, I didn't know what was happening with Jantry and the Tahoe City guys, you know. I didn't know anything. I was on my own.
You're just doing it on yourself.
Doing it myself.
By yourself on a Lonnie Toff, too. When the
problem with the Lonnie Toff, if you're familiar, the front of the board would just bend and you just eat shit unless it was a total pow day.
Yeah, and you're standing right
so
on the
I
back.
actually
right.
figured, this thing's not right. And I actually gave it to a lift op that worked at Sugar Bowl that lived up here. I said, man, you're up here all the time hiking all this. And, I do it once in a while, but I actually gave it to him. I'm
That's
not
sweet.
ever sure what happened to him.
Right.
But I thought it needed a better home and I didn't think it was right. And so immediately there's a group of us in Sacramento. We got into mono skiing.
Okay. Yeah.
Where
I could
Mike
see how
Doyle,
that would happen. Yeah.
Mike Doyle, famous surfer, he developed the mono ski.
Yeah.
So I got into that.
I still see those once in a while, man.
Yeah, there's groups that get together.
Yep.
I used to keep one around, just for fun. They really kick ass.
If you knew how to ski, you could mono ski. You could make it go.
Well,
it was better for
people
powder.
didn't like mono skis either. They thought,
man,
yeah.
You're gonna get the Jimmy Scott roller skate hate for. Yeah,
I understand because Jimmy's here. Great, you got to interview Jimmy and
the best. Best. That was so fun.
It's nice to bring up that attitude. I know we're going all over the place.
Yeah, because even within skateboarding, by the time I started, big wheels, small wheels, long board, short board,
so much,
everybody's kind of butting heads against each other. Like, oh, you're not that fucking cool, and you know what I mean? Like, it's always had that kind of cool guy cutoff. Hey, you're not from Northern California. Fuck off. Get out of here, Southern California guy. But
it was kind of.
But if you could skate, if someone showed up, and even if they pushed Mongo, which is awful, like, okay, but they could skate, it's like, that guy can fucking skate. Let him do his thing.
The whole Mongo thing just got overworked a bit,
It's actually an indicator of the regulation, the regulators. It's like, it became like people would freak on you if you push Mongo.
Yeah.
Freak.
As a downhiller is actually better if you learn to push both ways.
Yeah, you want to push both feet.
And
you need to push both feet.
It's kind of like, why don't you go switch? Why don't you push both ways?
Right.
Instead of get tapped for being a Mongo.
It's funny because those gatekeepers and that cool thing goes out the window in the community of friends. You know what I mean? And that's what comes through in the N-Men movie. And any snowboarder out there that hasn't seen this N-Men movie, this is the reason that we're here at Donner today, but this is the reason we're all here, is that the community and the friendships and the wherewithal to keep going, right? Like some people, we saw the Dogtown, we watched the Dogtown one after because I don't think that there was someone that hadn't seen it. Was it
Dogtown?
They hadn't seen Dogtown. And
That's criminal.
Here's a funny, crazy fact about the Lords of Dogtown documentary is that the very famous actor, East Side and Down, Kenny, the guy who played Kenny Powers, he wasn't a famous actor yet. He actually did a lot of the zooms into the pictures and the pans. Danny McBride is his name. He worked on that. And he was like, oh, God damn it. They brought me like 5,000 skateboard photos. And I had to zoom in and go side to side on this. And once you see Dogtown, knowing that Danny McBride was the guy that did that, you're like, wow, they really did zoom in a lot on pictures when they were talking about shit for that action. But anyways, you guys were not just, what became the kind of power shit.
Because you brought up Dogtown.
Yep.
And what was cool for me, I watched Dogtown. I was in Florida, and I watched it with Caballero and Lance Mountain. in the theater, you know. And right after that, we were all going to Europe, and so it was really cool that we got to see that documentary before taking off, you know.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It has become a shorthand for any action sports industry. We want to make the Dogtown of snowboarding. We want to make the Dogtown of surfing. You know, like,
you know, and on that note, since the N-Men thing has come out, which is, you know, there's parallels of the same time period.
Yep.
Things are going on, and I think there's a shout out to across the country and across the world that everybody has their similar story, you know, and I look forward to more stories coming out of each area. Just like when I think about the Hall of Fame stuff, that Florida took upon themselves to start the Florida Skateboarding Hall of Fame, you know, to honor what's happening in their area. And basically, the whole start of this legend thing here at Donner, originally, I was marketing director here 35 years ago. It's
rad.
So it's always freaky for me to be in this building for the years and what's happened to me and what I've done in this building and on that mountain.
Yeah.
It's, every time I come up here, it's emotional. But the start to this whole thing is we used to honor the early days here at Donner. We had a vintage race. Bryce Knights from San Francisco and Thrasher and
BK,
long
dude.
time. BK,
Yeah.
BK was a big part of the early days, and Caitlin was a big part of that. That we would break out the vintage boards. You know, Jacoby was around, and Kidwell come out. You know, and it was kind of a mini thing of what was happening now. But we didn't really have a organizing group or anything, just a group of friends. And I worked here, so I was able to set up pretty easily. But one night we were all drinking some beer, and Randy Caton goes, you know, every year we invite Chuck Barfoot, we invite Tom Sims, we get Burton, and every year they gracefully decline. And so Randy goes, you know, if we honor them, they have to come. And we went, whoa. And that was the start of it. And so the very next year, we said, hey, we came up with this Legend of Tahoe, because I honestly would tell you that on the territorial aspect, Tahoe's been a very close-knit family, and I want to say because of USASA, which I used to run what was called the NorCal Nevada Snowboard Series. And South Shore people were used to coming up north, and we used to go down south. And that grew so big where we ended up developing two different USASA regions. So there was always a real kind of tight-knit, close-knit of Tahoe. And all of us that have been part of the snowboarding scene in Tahoe have an awareness of who the kingpins have been, who's contributed, who's out on, who's done well, you know, from the Palmers, the Kidwells, the Jacobys, the Roaches, you know. Everybody is cognizant of that.
Yeah.
And we always felt like, and I hate to say this because they're good friends of mine, but Transworld Snowboarding was like clueless of what the hell is going on around Tahoe, you know. And so with those kind of incentives, we actually said, man, let's start our own thing, just like Florida did with skateboarding. We're going to do our own Legends of Tahoe Snowboarding, we call it.
Yep.
And the first year, it was Chuck Barfoot, Tom Sims, and Burton. You know, they were the honorees. And Tom and Chuck came here. They hadn't spoken in 30 years since they broke up the company, which is a whole other story.
Totally.
And it was a beautiful thing that these two longtime friends that hadn't spoken in years and years got it together here and went off on their own. You know, I can remember watching them from the deck going off. You know, like they could have gone in to you know, kicking the shit out of each other, but instead, you know, they ended up hugging and stuff. And then the next day, they had a head-to-head race and blew everybody's minds when Chuck Barfoot beat Tom.
Chuck beat Tom?
Chuck beat Tom in a head-to-head race on Chair 4. And,
Chucky.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy fuck.
And that was a great weekend. I lived up here. Chuck stayed at my house, and Dave Weaver was with Chuck, and they were all... You know, so, and Weaver's here.
Yeah.
You know, so there's such a greatness of what developed from that first year. To think how many years has gone by.
It's 19, right?
And
this is number 19.
Which is insane, you know.
That's great.
And we slowly, every year, and it's kind of cool. Mike and I, and beyond Mike, Tom Collins was a big part of this back then. There's a big group that really contributed to the growth of this, you know. And talking about that growth, Mike and I, and I'm sure Mike probably told you, we're ready to hand this off, you know, pass
You've
the
done
baton.
some of the largest standing sideways events in the history of the world. Like, we're talking X Games you were a founding developer of the X Games? Is that a part of your legacy?
I can honestly, from the very first extreme games.
Right, like
in
where there
Rhode
was shovel
Island.
racing and all that shit.
Oh, yeah, that's
I love
rad.
that.
You bring up shovel
I
racing.
fucking love that. Didn't Palmer do pretty good in the shovel race?
You know, I actually don't remember that Palmer did the shovel race.
Okay,
But
I
Lee
might
Danzy.
Yeah.
Lee Danzy, good downhill luge friend, buddy of mine, world champ guy.
Yeah.
And we used to do all that. What a character, Lee. I love you, buddy. But he shows up, and it's called the modified shovel racing.
That's what it was, modified.
And so,
right,
yeah,
right.
we're at Snow Summit, the very first Winter X Games. And, you know, ESPN's just looking for, you know, the craziest stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I guess there actually have been modified shovel racing events.
Up to that
and
point.
I think there was a world championship even.
Right.
And I think the rules are pretty loose. But Lee Danzy shows up, and I think the rule was you had to have a shovel that touched the ground, that rode on the ground. Not that it had any control over what you did.
Right.
Just that it was sliding along.
Yeah.
And as I remember, Lee got this luggage rack for cars, but it was a nice fiberglass enclosed luggage rack, and he cut a hole out of it where his head could stick out like he was in a luge. Like his head stuck out the top, and it was aerodynamic because it was all encased.
Oh my God!
And I think he put it on top of a sled, and the shovel
handle coming and sticking out.
Yeah,
I fucking love it.
So
it's
interesting
crazy.
you bring that up because I can't help but think about Lee.
Do you remember when Sansalone won the Big Air? Was that the first year? That was the second or third year? It had already gotten going.
Oh,
because I just want to tell you, at Mount Seymour, where I was riding a lot at that time,
yeah,
Kevin was like a larger than life character who had already moved to Whistler, and maybe hadn't yet. He was like founder of the Seymour Kids, and he ripped. But there were a lot of, you know how it is, like the kids are coming up and getting better than the old guys. And I mean, we're talking about he was probably 25 or 26. But Sansalone won the X Games Big Air, and then he won the West Beach Classic, which is our mega event up in Canada. And the story I remember was he had lost his sponsorship with Santa Cruz or something. He was starting to age out at 27 or whatever, and he was starting to think of other careers. But then once he won that X Games, that was it. He was that launched him on. He's still a lead guide at Baldface right now. He stayed in the whole way, and he had pro models with option. He went on to be one of Canada's greatest pros, because winning the X Games at that point meant you got to shop around. You get to pick from multiple offers.
And I think the X Games changed a lot of careers for
it
a lot of
had
people,
to have.
You know?
It would have had to have. Yeah.
You know, thinking back to that first accident, I think a lot about Jim Rippey, you know, doing a backflip in the middle of border cross, you know. But since we're talking about that, what I'm proud of is that at that first X Games, at that time, basically border cross was almost completely gone, you know. And ironically, it was weird that FIS, for the Olympics, they took on the discipline of border cross, but they didn't do it right. They ran it with 4 guys.
Right, not the 6. Right.
Okay, and the sixth thing, and so for me, it was great that I got to go to ESPN and look. This event is kick-ass. Swatch had a world tour that was kick-ass.
Yep.
You know, it's exciting for both the riders, and you love watching it because people crash.
Yep. Yep.
You know, it's racing.
It's head-to-head. It's
head.
6 people. It's motocross.
And then, and fifth, I was going, what are you guys thinking? 4 at a time and whatever.
Yeah.
And so I was able to go to ESPN. They basically said, what events, you know? And I'm stoked that I got to say border cross, slope style. If you notice, there's no GS, there's no slalom.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's
But
what
we had
made
big air.
the vibe of the thing current. It was a current
Yeah.
event because it didn't have any heritage bullshit ski stuff at first.
And it was really crazy because basically in snowboarding, I was really good at tight slalom because I was good at skateboard
Slalom.
Yeah.
And so you could have put a slalom event in there.
Well, you know what? When I think about slalom, a lot of the early guys in snowboarding, it used to be fun to put on the armor.
Yeah.
Because we had
Gate
breakaway
bashing.
gates.
Yeah, gate bashing.
And if you sound like you did too, because if you had that passion,
I've hit a few.
There's a certain visual that you do when you're doing breakaways, as opposed to these little stubbies.
Yeah.
Stubbies are great for GS because you're leaning to the turn as much.
Yeah.
But as far as slalom, man, I thought stubbies ruined slalom and snowboarding.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's it's such an honor to talk to somebody that's had I cannot overstate the impact that you've had on sideways standing sports because the visuals that brought us all into them were contests that were shot and that were on TV and that were creating these legendary people that you honor at this event. This is the best event.
It was just like yesterday with Sean and
Nate.
You know, when I see them, whenever I see Sean, I talked about it yesterday. The first time I saw him was at Boreal. I think he was 13, 14 maybe. But it just went, oh my God, that's what snowboarding should be like, you know? And whenever I see him, I see the little kid.
That's amazing.
And, you know, and we have such a great relationship over the years because of going to the X Games, basically, you know.
He destroyed at X Games.
Oh, yeah.
Destroyed. He crossed genres. He ended the skier snowboard war. Who's better? Fucking Sean Palmer is better. That's all there is to it. It's not about skiing and snowboarding anymore. It's like if a snowboarder can go over, I really felt that in my heart. Like if a snowboarder can win skier cross, then snowboarding is better than skiing. It just is.
You know, since we're talking about all that and skiing, like I think I said earlier, I didn't start skiing until I was 21. I felt like I started late, and basically, I was right during the hot dog days of Wayne Wong and people like that, and I had to have the K2s that Wang had with the red, white, and blue and all that.
Sick.
And I went from 215s down to 190s, and the whole short thing was happening. So I have a taste of skiing in me through that. So later on, the very first Winter X Games, they called them, I think they were called ski skates.
Yeah.
And it was like the dumbest thing ever,
It was snowlerblading. That's what eventually we called it snowlerblading.
And it was because they had inline skating in the summer, and they thought this was like having inline in the winter.
It was. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And so we're at Copper Mountain, and free skiing is like slowly taking off around the country. Free skiing was this, guys on skis that I don't want to snowboard, I want to ski, and I want to do all this stuff because it's like it was kind of a carry on from hot dog skiing, which really set the standard outside of the dance stuff.
Yeah,
the
dance really took it down.
God.
But when you have guys like Glenn Blake and Scott Schmidt, doing sick shit in big free ride situations,
exactly.
Holy crap! Yeah, that's where we got our inspiration from. That's where free riding really started at Baker. With that generation, you guys were here. The Tahoe City Dump was the most insane freestyle that was going on, but it was 2 years ahead of everybody else. But holy crap! If you don't tilt your hat to Scott and Glenn, and both of them are Tahoe guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, Blake's been here plenty. He used to come and stay in the condos and stuff.
Here at Donner.
What a guy!
Sick.
So he'd come to Little Donner.
Donner.
He could go anywhere he'd want.
Totally.
But back on my story, we're at Copper Mountain, and there was a big meeting there, and because I had been kind of vocal to behind the scenes at ESPN about, that there's this thing going on with skiing. This little blade shit's got to go, And actually,
oh wow, good for you. Yeah.
And actually, there's this big meeting, and they had representatives of free skiers. I think most guys are probably from Colorado at the time because we're at Copper.
Yep.
And Chris Gunnarsson,
Gunny,
and I, we walked in to this meeting, and we sat down, and they introduced us and all that. And when I got up to talk, and I said, I have a little bit of background skiing this and that, and I've actually done the GLM. We used to take GLM, if anybody knows where that graduated length method, GLM. They used to have short skis to teach you how to ski on short skis.
Oh.
Then you went long skis.
Yeah.
And this is all long before short skis.
Totally.
He says, so I actually know what it's like to ski on short skis. And I said, I'm pretty sure I said it's fucking ridiculous. Because on real skis, you could go faster, higher, look way better.
Totally.
And all the free skiers, and I got a lot of high fives. Man, I don't know who you are, but, so I actually will say that I think Gunny and I, we spoke up that day, and that was the last year they had the skier blader things,
whatever it is,
and free skiing just took off, and
it was the same course. That was the thing. The X Games brought over skiers from the old way of thinking into being like, fuck, we kind of gotta do the things that the snowboarders are doing are cooler. They're better events. They're more fun. They're more
that's
challenging.
The thing, props to ESPN. They had an open mind to listen to Gunny. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. That's where snowboarding influenced skiing. Right?
Exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's right there.
And at the time, even the way the free skiers were dressing and all,
still now.
Yeah.
The cool kids in the Seymour parking lot the last time I went up were all skiers. I was like, wow, you guys are doing parking lot beers. You got the fucking baggy clothes. You
and
look
there's
like
mad
little
respect
hoodlums.
back and forth.
There is now. There's not as much. There's like kids can't even imagine. Why would you hate on a skier? Crews are like skier, snowboarder on the lifts. Like it's not. They just don't have that. I don't. Why were we so mad at skiers? I don't remember why we were.
Think now. Skiers are pissed at snowboarders.
Right. So we just hated back.
We were mad at them. We were just being
we didn't like being
hated.
hated.
We're just being who we are. We're being youth with energy and stuff. And the comment I've hated over the years from skiers, and I have a lot of skier friends, and in fact, I even heard this within the last couple of weeks. Well, it's so loud. You can hear them coming.
Oh,
and it's like, get them.
You could hear a beginner skier coming too.
Yeah.
It's the same sound.
But why can't we all get along? We're getting along.
We're getting along fine now. We're getting along.
But I'm stoked that free skiing, that I had a part in that, Gunny, and that free skiing took off. And then what's kind of cool is in Park City the year after they had the Olympics there, I got invited to organize the World Superbike Championships
Ooh, sick.
at Park City, and so for like 5 years, I'd go to Park City, and through Winter X Games and through doing the Dew Tour.
Oh, wow.
Snowboard. I did all the snowboarding events. I did do skiing,
Holy
but at Park
shit.
City, I got to do both snowboarding and skiing. So I got in with a lot of the top skiers because of the Park City thing. And so there's a big crew out there. Shout out to Tom Zekas, who's carrying the torch, who's still at the Dew Tour and X Games. And Tom was a Cross M team member here.
Damn. At Donner.
And that's another
Incredible.
big part. The fact that Little Donner Ski Ranch, we had the Cross M racing team, Mark Fawcett,
Killer. Hey, do you want to weave a fabric of the the quilt of snowboard community right now? Mike Jacoby told me this morning that he recruited the Cross M Jerry Masterpool.
Yeah.
He was a coach for something else. He was a coach for we can just review the tape.
Ski wise, yeah.
He was a coach for something else, and Jacoby wanted to stay here. He wanted to ride here, and so Burton was going to send him wherever the coaches were. But he recruited Masterpool. He's like, "Hey, ever think about maybe coaching snowboarding?" And Jerry looked into it and went, "Shit, I would do that." And so then that's why it stayed here, was because Jacoby didn't want to travel some other place.
Those were insane times to think we had probably the best snowboard racers in the
Here,
world at Little Donner Ski Ranch.
Yeah.
And they trained 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Midday they were here. And that's right. That's when I worked here.
Fozzie,
and
Mark Fawcett, Jeremy Jones, I would imagine.
Who thinks about Jeremy as being a racer these days?
Right. No,
people don't know.
Yeah,
Jeremy was part of Cross M.
Yeah.
And Zekas and Fuzzy. I mean, and I got to go out and train with those guys on occasion and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then hence
dudes.
I took
Best
Master
dudes.
Pool. I was president of USASA, and we were back in Minnesota.
Whoa.
And I had Jerry come out and be the technical guy for all that.
That's amazing.
Alpine stuff. So it's funny how this little ski area with 650 feet of vertical, had world-class people going on for years and years.
It's like Seymour. There are certain places where it's just good. The small, like if this was on Whistler, it would be a zone that everyone goes to. You know what I mean? You don't need the top to bottom. Not everybody goes to Whistler and rides from the peak to the creek and then back up the peak to the creek.
Now you have me thinking. We did a Winter X Games at Whistler, but it was in the springtime because I never knew how big Whistler was.
It's massive.
If you haven't been there,
It's so big.
it's mind-blowing when you go there. But we actually had a Winter X Games on the top of the mountain, while mountain biking was going on the bottom of the mountain.
Wow.
And all the lifts, the mountain biking scene there at that time,
Huge.
unbelievable,
Yeah, what they were doing.
And on that note, I was actually a National Off-Road Bike Association official,
Oh, what?
and I ran the mountain bike series here
Holy shit,
and
Don.
competed, and and I brought it up the other day that Sean Palmer was one of the top downhillers.
Absolutely was.
He did his first race on a downhill. It was one of my races here at Donner.
Amazing.
From top to bottom. And when Sean showed up that morning, we're going, Sean, what are you doing? Oh, I ride bikes. Oh, yeah. Just going to have some fun. Sean just, I have fun. Have some fun. And so I remember his first run, he's coming down. And I got guys on, marshals on the course. And I hear on the radio, this guy is flying. And who is that? Oh, it's Sean. Kicked everybody's ass.
He had a pro career in downhill.
Went on to be top guy at Specialized and stuff. And,
Right.
And I used to help officiate down at Mammoth at the big race there. And Sean be there. And everybody's got all their stuff. Sean's got one little van by himself. And everybody's at Sean's booth.
Unreal.
Yeah, Sean. Peace out to you, brother. Love you.
Guy's the best. All right. Well, let's end on.
Yeah.
You can pick one of these two questions.
Okay.
Was there some, like, it's pretty easy, I would imagine, to see Terrier come through. You're like, okay, this guy's gonna win. This guy's winning. Were there people that were coming up that you were excited to watch? You're like, ooh, this guy in a couple of years is going to be amazing. So that became that, or were there? And then the other question you could choose between these two was it who was underrated? Like who didn't get the due that you saw that you're going, fuck, these judges are fucking up. This guy is insane.
You know, I kind of heard a little bit with Jimmy when you were talking to him about the judging thing and all, and you know that's a subject that could be talked about for
forever.
A long time. And it's funny how often I, as a contest director, have taken the blame for what the judges have done, because I'm the one.
You're the name.
I'm the one that would hire those judges.
You're the event organizer.
Event, and I'd get a lot of flack for why this and why that.
Yeah.
And I will say, probably 95% of the time, I back the judges.
Back the judges.
And what they're doing, and the reason that they are judges. And if you've never been a judge,
shut the fuck up.
It's not. No,
it's hard. It's a hard job, dude.
You should, step into those shoes.
Right. Right. Right.
And there's a reason why you have 5 judges.
Yep. Yeah.
At the same point, when I first did my little slope style things here, I was the announcer and I was the judge. I did everything. And if somebody had a beef, I said, no. But yeah, judging's a whole different thing. But getting back to who, over the years, there's so many people that I've seen that you just go, oh my God. I think of one guy that came to this area. I think of Jason Borgstead from Alaska.
Wow.
Jason came down here, and Jason, certain guys in snowboarding have a goal.
Yep.
And it's not that they want to be world champion, but they want to be the best that they can be, and if it fits into that mold of being world champion. And one of the first kids I seen that look is Mike Jacoby. Because Mike, as a teenager around Donner, Mike's always been a good-sized guy, but always impressive rider. But I could see in Mike's eyes, I could tell he wanted to impress me, and from there wanted to impress the world, because Mike and people similar to him, if you don't have that drive, that inner competitive thing, Mike had that very strong, and Mike would tell you, I'm gonna win, I'm gonna beat you, whatever. I got tons of stories about that.
Yeah. And
then you have Palmer or Chris Roach. They're just, I'm just gonna have fun. But inside they're going, I'm kicking down. There's totally, that, and you gotta love that about those guys. But I do think of the Roach brothers, Tucker Franzen. Such a huge degree of talent coming out of little Grass Valley.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, just a huge.
The Bassiches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Both of them.
Tucker Franzen. Just it goes on and on.
Yep. Devin Ryerson. Yeah. There's a bunch. There's a bunch of really good riders out of Grass Valley.
I have to bring up Dave Cioni.
Oh shit! I forgot Cioni.
Dave Cioni.
There's an era of Cioni where he's top billed in Snowboarders in Exile.
Like I think a lot of people,
or Western
that's
Front.
a filmmaker guy, right?
Right. He was so successful as a filmmaker, it almost overshadows the fact that he was one of the best snowboarders in the world for a part of an era. Yeah.
There's a guy named, not too well known, but around Tahoe, a guy named Sean Goulard.
Yeah.
And there's some photos that Bud has of absolute contortionists, which back then was tweaking airs was
tweaking.
Just, how tweaking, and this guy was unbelievable. And then, as I'm saying that name, and you think about style in the air and all that, Damian Saunders,
unbelievable. The best.
And hard boots.
In hard boots, flipping the Palisades here.
Yeah.
For fun.
You got the hard boot guys, like we have Avalanche snowboards when they came out. with Tom Burke, Jim Zellers, Bonnie Zellers.
Yep.
You know, their approach on hard boots was really interesting.
Yeah.
And to this day, Tom Burke, you know, he looks, he's amazing coming down anything.
He's a cat.
You know? And those guys are always like that. So
Yeah.
we always had this talent around this area, which again gets back to we wanted to honor our own talent around Tahoe because we felt like we weren't getting our due outside here. That's what this has kind of grown into.
I gotta say it, Don.
And now you've noticed we expanded, you know, to up north, to the Baker, you know.
Baker Band.
And we've had a lot of people come from Utah and Colorado.
It's going to keep getting bigger.
Yeah.
I just need to say, you started by saying your original goal in life and what you thought was that you were going to be a rock star. And I can't think of a bigger rock star in snowboarding and skateboarding than Don Bostic. You're a fucking rock star, dude. Yeah, straight up. Thank you. Thank you for everything you've done.
Right on.
It's incredible.
I just feel I've been blessed. That's it.
Yeah. Well, you took the opportunities and you ran with it, so that's great.
You know, the only thing I'd like to add to all that is a shout out to my wife. Got to have a woman behind you or with you. Thank you, Danielle.
Thank you. That was so sick.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, I've just started shouting out my wife now because, you know, I'm so casual in these conversations. Sometimes I would drop a dumb thing about my, you know, like, oh yeah, we got in a dumb fight or something, and she would listen to the show. Then she'd hear that, and she'd be like, "You're such an asshole. You never say that I'm." And even doing this now, it makes it sound like she's whiny. She's not. I wouldn't be here without my wife. I couldn't get here without that support. I'd be a completely different person somewhere in a ditch.
You know
or
what's
something.
funny is, you said you watched the Ant-Man movie.
I did. Yeah.
During that time, I was married to a different lady for 10 years.
Yeah.
That went through when I had the skate shop and all. When I had that skate shop, if I wasn't at the shop, I was off skating somewhere with these kids.
Yeah.
You know, and my wife and I, we ended up going to counseling, and I'm going, what for? Everything's great.
Right.
And then we'd go to these counseling, and she'd just go,
yeah.
And I'd go, I didn't know, because I'm just having the time of my life.
Enjoying myself like crazy.
And so every now and then I say, you know, I'm probably the first guy I'd have to go to counseling because of skateboarding.
Yeah, that's epic.
Yeah.
Thanks, Don. Thank you. That was amazing. FNRad shout-outs this week to N-Men, Godfather, Don Bostic, and all the park builders, event managers, and resort operation people who make stuff like Holy Bowly, the X Games, the Dark Park, the Side Cut Rope Tow, and all our community snowboarding events happen. Thanks to our Patreon supporters. We just crossed the $200 a month line. If you've been thinking about joining, why not take the time today? Be sure to come back next week for another episode of FNRad Snowboarding, presented by Skyview Campers and brought to you by FNRad Productions.